everyone, welcome back. Thank you for coming back for New Moon Part 2. If you haven't watched Part 1, I will link it here so you can watch it. I highly recommend you do, because then as I get progressively more pissed off over these next couple of chapters, you'll know why. Because apparently a 110-year-old man doesn't actually know how to treat a woman, but never mind. Anyway, I digress. Listen, it's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, throughout this, we've got the blossoming friendship or relationship of Jacob Black and Bella. She's still obviously going through a lot this time. So let's get into the next 12 chapters? I don't know. Yeah, the next 12 chapters and see what the rest of it is all about. Enjoy. So Bella goes to confront Jacob. He's asleep. She's like to Billy, let him know I'm down the beach when he wakes up. She goes to the beach, he suddenly appears because obviously he's super quiet. And they argue because I think he thinks she's come to see him to be like, we're done, we're not friends anymore, I don't like the fact that you're a werewolf kind of thing. And remember that Bella still thinks that he's like a killer, like a murderer. So she's acting like super like scared and just like weird. He goes, you're such a hypocrite, Bella. There you sit, terrified of me. How is that fair? Hypocrite? How does being afraid of a monster make me a hypocrite? Jacob says, well, I'm sorry that I can't be the right kind of monster for you, Bella. I guess I'm just not as great as a bloodsucker, am I? It's not what you are, stupid. It's what you do. And they had this whole conversation about the fact that he's actually not killing people. So she realizes that Sam like isn't like that bad, and that he's kind of been guiding Jacob through this whole process and everything. And I guess Jacob just makes Sam a bit more human by telling the story about how, you know, when Sam changed, he was like the only one or the first one of like that generation, so he did it alone, whereas all the other ones, all the other guys have changed and Sam's been there, or the others that have changed have been there to help them through the process. So we like Sam a bit more now. And this is actually when he also tells her that they killed Laurent, like they chased him that day in the woods or in the field when she first saw Jacob but didn't know it was Jacob. After they discuss Laurent dying, he says that he knows that Laurent's mate is also around, like they're searching for her, like she keeps coming onto like the reservation and then like running away again, and they don't know what she wants. So Bella's like, I know what she fucking wants. She also tells Jacob that Laurent is not her mate, it was James, and that Edward killed James, and what Victoria wants is her, because she's like, mate for mate, you know, you kill James, I'm gonna kill your mate. And Jacob's thinking, you know, that's great, now we know what she wants. Like, Bella, you can be like an insider, like, informant. Is that the word? Informant. Like you can be like a spy and tell us like all the deets on the vampires. Because he says like, oh, I heard a myth that they can read minds. And she's like, well, not all of them can, they have like special powers, but Edward can. And he's like, oh. That's not good, I guess, because obviously he was thinking things about Bella in like Twilight that he probably didn't want Edward to know. So we also found out a little bit more about Jacob turning, and that he doesn't need the moon to turn. He says that's like a myth, a legend, and that he can turn like if he gets angry or upset, which is something that happens, I guess, like a lot when they're like newer. I don't really know, but he says that he sometimes can't be around her if he's like upset and angry, because yeah, he might turn, he doesn't know like what would happen. So with all this new information, he's like, let's go meet the pack. We need to tell them what's going down with Victoria and you, and that like you're the one she's looking for. And obviously Jacob wants her to feed them insider info. So they're on their way to meet the rest of the pack. He's called them like in his mind. I think he went into the woods, turned into the werewolf, spoke to them in his mind. He turned back into Jacob, human Jacob, and then comes back out onto the beach. And he's like, okay, meeting set. Where they rode their motorbikes. They're driving there, meeting there. And when they're parked in the car, Jacob says to her, you're still pretty unhappy, aren't you? He murmured. I nodded, staring unseeingly into the gloomy forest. Did you ever think that maybe you're better off? I inhaled slowly and let out my breath. No. Girl, yes you are. Fuck's sake. So now we're at the meeting spot of where all the Sam and the gang are gonna meet Bella and Jacob. But I forgot to say that he didn't tell them that Bella would be there because she's not supposed to know about werewolves and shit. So they come like strolling out the woods and they're pissed. Well, they're all pissed, but one of them, like, is it Jared, is really pissed. And he's like, what the fuck? No, he's not. He's like, I can't believe, like, what have you done, Jacob? I can't believe you've done this. Is she more important than his tribe? Just like really going off on one. He's not happy anyway. Gets a bit fraught. Jared turns into a wolf and starts like running at them. Like Jacob's like hiding Bella behind him, like to protect her. So then he's running towards Jared. He turns and then they start like fighting and shit. Then they run off into the woods and carry on fighting. And she's just like stood there. And everyone else is just like laughing, thinking it's like mega lols. She's a bit like, what the fuck is happening right now? So Sam's like, take Bella back to Emily's. And then he like heads off after Jacob and Jared. I guess obviously like to discipline them or like just to make sure nothing bad's happening. So the other two drive Bella back to Emily's. They're not worried at all. They're like taking bets to see who's gonna win, whether Jacob will win, and also taking bets to see if Bella will throw up because she looks quite queasy after that happened. I mean, it was like her first time seeing him change, so I'm not surprised. So we get to Emily's and find out she is Sam's fiance, but right before we get there, I think it's Embry says to Bella, like, don't stare at her face, or like, don't stare. It doesn't say anything else. So Bella walks in and Emily's there making breakfast for everybody, and like she turns towards them and she's got like 3 like long claw marks, like from her hairline to like her chin, and also on her like all the way right down her right arm too. So kind of like shocks Bella, and now she's understanding that like why Jacob said he couldn't be around her if he gets angry and upset, because he could turn like super quickly, and obviously that might be safe for her. So she, I guess, is clocking on to the fact that Sam must have changed and hurt her by accident, but no one seems bothered about like what happened between Jacob and Jared. They kind of think it's quite funny, and she just can't get her head around it. So Sam comes back and walks up to Emily and gives her like a kiss on like her scar, and then like a kiss on the lips, and Bella can kind of like feel the love, like how intense and how much he like cares and loves Emily. So she's finding that her chest is feeling really cold and empty, and she doesn't really want to be seeing this, obviously. Thanks, Edward. And Jacob comes in and asks how she's holding up, and she thinks here that her chest feels better as soon as Jacob is beside her, which is really sweet. Anyway, he tells everyone that Victoria's after Bella, so they make a plan of action on how to handle that. But during this time, like, they're all having breakfast, and it's like they call each other brothers, and it's all like really lovely and just like homely, and like, I don't know, it's wholesome, I think is the word. Just, it's really nice. When she's home later with Charlie, he says about like, so what's going on with you and Jacob? And she says, it's all fine now. Like, even the whole thing with like not liking Sam, thinking he was in a gang, was all a big misunderstanding. She'd met Emily, his fiance, and Charlie was like, oh, that's really nice that they made it official. It's such a shame what happened to her, like the accident. So Bella says, well, what happened? And he's like, oh, about a year ago, she got mauled by a bear, and Sam was beside himself. And obviously that must have been when Sam was like the first and only one to return. So it must have been quite scary to have gone through that and then to have like hurt your girlfriend. So we end our day with this thought. I rolled over and tried to think of something else, and I thought of Jacob and his brothers out running in the darkness. I fell asleep imagining the wolves, invisible in the night, guarding me from danger. When I dreamed, I stood in the forest again, but I didn't wander. I was holding Emily's scarred hand as we faced into the shadows and waited anxiously for our werewolves to come home. So Bella is spending her time like being at home with Charlie, but also spending a lot of time of the day in La Push with Jacob and all the others. Obviously they can keep an eye on her because they're still searching for Victoria. She's spending a lot of time with Emily in the house too, but then obviously when Sam comes back and it's a bit too lovey-dovey, she like leaves. One of the places she spends a lot of time with Jacob is on the beach at La Push. When we walk along the beach now, he always holds my hand. This made me brood over what Jared had said about Jacob involving his girlfriend. I suppose that was exactly what it looked like from the outside. As long as Jake and I knew how it really was, I shouldn't let those kinds of assumptions bother me. Now that bothers me though, because I'm like, you know, oh my God, the sun. You know how Jacob feels about you, and you're holding his hand. I don't know, I just don't feel like you should be holding his hand, I understand that he's like your best friend and he makes you feel like warm and fuzzy inside, but you're not wanting anything romantic, so I don't know. But she does spend a lot of evenings at Jacob's and like has dinner there, and they find themselves like in his car, like in the garage, just like taking a bit of a breather from Billy and Charlie. And then we find out a little bit more about when Jacob turned, and he said that most time when people turn it's because they're angry or upset, but he you look weird, and then that like set him off, and he just like turned and literally like ripped Billy's fucking face off. We learn about Ephraim Black, who was like one of the original like wolves, is his great grandfather. So he was obviously 100% gonna become one of the wolves, like it's just in his DNA. Then whilst they're having this heart to heart, she tells him a little bit more about like James and the fact that he bit her, and the fact that she's got a scar that's like a crescent moon or something on her wrist from where he bit her and it healed. And he did, he hasn't previously mentioned, I can't remember if I mentioned it, that Jacob had touched that scar and it felt cold. So she tells him why it feels cold, because he turned her. He was like, how did you survive? And she tells him that Edward saved her. So when people are saying, oh, don't involve your girlfriend, it's because, and I forgot to mention that when they met for their meet up at the in the woods with Sam, Yuli and the rest of them, they said like don't involve your girlfriend, and she didn't correct them or like say, no, I'm not his girlfriend, like we're not together. She just kind of went along with it. Anyway, they're having this heart to heart, and it's just bringing up loads of memories of the Cullens and how like lonely she feels and how like empty her heart is. And she's telling Jacob about, you know, Alice and her special gifts, and Jasper and his gifts. Anyway, it's just a good old heart to heart, right? And he looks really tired because he's not been getting much sleep, because obviously they're on red alert basically. They're looking for Victoria, the bitch is coming. So he's like, look, tomorrow why don't we take some time off, let's go and do something fun, like it's a day. Again, she never like corrects him and is like, it's not a day. I don't know. I know how you just say, you know, when you're with friends, people are like, it's a day. It's not like, you're not really thinking of it as like a romantic thing. Maybe that's how he's saying it, but still, knowing the way he feels about her doesn't like, kind of sit right with me. Anyway, we get to the next day and he is not there. She drives to his house, he's not there because they've caught a fresh scent of Victoria, so he's off, right? But he'd mentioned that they were going to go cliff diving because they'd seen Sam, Yuli and the others cliff diving, I think in Twilight. We saw it. Did we? Or was it the beginning of this book? I can't remember. She had her hopes about cliff diving, but also selfishly, she knows that if she goes cliff diving, she's going to hear Edward's voice because it's something that's dangerous, and he's going to be like, Bella, no. Which is exactly what happens. So anyway, she's like, fuck it, I'm just going to go do it myself. Like, she's just like gagging for like his voice in her head. And she's just like, I'm just gonna go be reckless. I'm gonna go do the cliff diving. I'm gonna go off the highest bloody point. I mean, she's just being it's so stupid, but anyway, I get it, I guess. She gets to the cliff, she dives off. She's like, this is exhilarating, like the adrenaline rush, she's really enjoying it. Like plunging into the cold water, it's great. And then she's realizing that the waves are kind of taking over, and like she's being jostled around so much, she doesn't know which way is like up, which way is the surface. So she's just like literally in limbo in the water. And he's obviously, his voice is there a lot. He's like, Bella, no, like fight, you need to fight. And she's just enjoying his voice, not even thinking about trying to live. So she's basically drowning. He gets jostled around a bit more from the waves and hits her head on a rock, and then she finds herself just kind of sinking. She's kind of made peace with the fact that she's dying, and she's glad that it's this peaceful and calm. Obviously there's that saying like life flashes before your eyes, which she knows, and she's like, thank God that's not happening. I'd hate to have a rerun of my life. Sibylla obviously has heard Edward's voice, and she hears another voice telling her to like to breathe, like to stay awake, and it's Jacob, and he's putting her to safety. She hears another voice, and that's Sam's. So they've both come to the beach and found her. He's super concerned, obviously, for her because he cares a lot about her. I mean, we know that he cares for her as a friend, but also a bit more. Then Sam says to Jacob, are you okay with her so I get back to the hospital? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And it kind of registers in her brain. She doesn't really understand like what's being said. She asks how Jacob found her. He says that he was looking for her because apparently Victoria was in the water, and like they can't swim, I guess, or it's not, they can't be in their wolf form and swim. And he knows how much time she spends on the beach, so he was worried that she'd gone there. She wasn't on the beach, so he followed her tire marks, her truck tire marks, to up in the cliffs where she was, and he heard her scream. What's interesting is that as he carries her away to get off the beach, kind of go back to his, get into warm clothes, get somewhere warm, she says that she sees a flame on the water. And again, doesn't really think much of it, so we don't know much about the hospital and the flame in the water. Don't know what that is or what's happening. We finally get back to Jacob's house, and he goes to give her some new clothes, but she's just like, let me just sit on the couch and recover, please. They end up both having a bit of a nap on there. Obviously Jacob's exhausted 2 because he's been out searching for Victoria like 24/7. So Bella remembers that he said something about going back to the hospital, and Jacob says that Harry Clearwater had a heart attack, and that things just don't look good. And now Bella's a bit like, my God, there's me worrying about myself, my love life, when, you know, like, kind of puts things in perspective for her. So while she's like sitting there, like chilling out with Jacob, she's also thinking about Romeo and Juliet, right? Because like this is like a story that they are like studying in school, I think in Twilight, in the first one. And she keeps thinking about how, God, I haven't seen Romeo and Juliet in ages, but she talks about how once Romeo's dead, like what if she went off with Paris? And I was like, who the fuck is Paris? But obviously he's like the guy I think the family wants her to marry. And she's like, you know, what if we don't really know much about Paris? What if he was like her friend? She's basically comparing Paris from Romeo and Juliet to like Jacob. So what if like Juliet lost Romeo, but then decided like, you know what, I want to make Paris happy. He's my friend. That's if like that is, I don't know. I don't know the story of the proper story of Romeo and Juliet. So she's like thinking, you know, maybe I can make him happy. Maybe I should just, you know, kind of give in. She keeps thinking how she can bear not to have him in her life. Like it's not quite brother and sister, like it's a bit more than that, but it's not like what she had with Edward. Make him happy, could she just try and give like a little bit of herself to him? So she's thinking, could she commit to Jacob instead? I would have to commit to this, commit as much of me as there was left, every one of the broken pieces. It was the only way to be fair to him. Would I? Could I? Would it be so wrong to try to make Jacob happy, even if the love I felt for him was no more than a weak echo of what I was capable of? Even if my heart was far away, wandering in grief over my fickle Romeo, would it be so very wrong? I can answer that one for you, yes. It would be wrong, but whatever. So after their nap, they get woken up because Billy's back. And it's not good news. Harry Clearwater has passed away. He has ascended. Sam drops him off and then like heads back to the hospital. And then Jake said like, you should go home because it'd be good for you to be there when Charlie gets back. So he's driven her to the house. They're just outside. He's giving her a hug and he's like, look, I know you don't feel the same way as me, Bells, but I'm so glad that you're okay. And that nothing bad has happened to you. Yeah, so he's giving her a big hug and she's just thinking like, God, it feels so good to be embraced by him. It feels so comfortable, so natural. And I guess she's like I'm trying to like envision like how the hug is going, because she says that if she was to like kiss his shoulder blade, so I'm guessing her head's like right here, if she was to kiss his shoulder blade, it could just escalate naturally from there. So she's like she's got butterflies in her stomach, she's like trying to will herself to like try and do that. Ultimately she doesn't, because in her head she hears Edward, he's like, be happy, Bella. So it makes her like stiffen. So Jacob obviously thinks that it's because he's hugging her. So he goes to like get out the truck. He smells a vampire and he's like, we're getting the fuck out of here. He's trying like desperately not to change into a werewolf. He's like not on their land. So like he's not allowed to like hunt or change like on their land, the Cullens side, even though the Cullens aren't actually there. So they're about to drive away. And then as Bella turns around, she sees that Carlisle's car is parked in the street. She's like, wait, stop. Like, it's not Victoria, it's Carlisle. And what's really weird is that Jacob kind of turns and he's not turns into a werewolf, but he like turns and he's like a bit, this like mask kind of slips from his face and he gets a bit of like a sneer going on. And then he's like, well, I'm not taking you back, drive yourself back. I was like, okay, sure. He's like, well, I don't want to be a part of that. Obviously he doesn't like the Cullens because he also knows how Bella feels about them and like obviously her and Edward. And so he just starts to like jog away and he's like, don't die, Bella. It's like, thanks. So as she steps in the door, it dawns on her that Jacob said that Victoria was in the water and they couldn't follow. And now she's remembering what the red flame in the water was. And it was Victoria's hair in the wind. And just as she remembers and connects the dots of those two things, she realizes that there's someone in the house waiting for her. Don't panic, it's Alice. And Bella's like, oh my God, Alice. Alice is like, do you want to explain to me how you're still alive? So basically, Alice thinks that she was committing suicide, and she's just like, I wasn't, that's not what I was doing. Alice isn't convinced, she thinks that she was committing suicide. She's like, but I saw you like jump. And she's like, yeah, because I was like having a fun time cliff jumping. I've seen some of Jacob's friends cliff diving, I insisted. It looked like fun and I was bored. And then she admits that she didn't really think about the fact that there was a storm and how the water was going to be like when she hit it, basically. She was just enjoying the moment. So Bella tells Alice about how Jacob saved her, and Alice is confused. She's like, I didn't see Jacob save you. I didn't see anyone save you. So perhaps she can't
see werewolves in her premonitions, perhaps. Alice never heard of Jacob Black before, so she has to explain, like Jacob Black is like my new bestie, that he's like super strong, and Alice is just a bit like not really understanding. So she tells Alice about Jacob being a werewolf, and she's assuming that Alice knew, and she was like, weren't you like with Carlisle at that time anyway? You know, when the treaty was kind of created. And she was like, no, I joined afterwards, sorry. Alice does keep saying that she shouldn't kind of be there, and that she just jumped on a plane, didn't even think about it, hasn't told anyone that she's coming, and that she promised that she wouldn't like make contact. And she goes to leave, and Bella like freaks out. She's like, please don't leave, just don't go yet, because she's still super traumatized. So Bella asks Alice to stay the night, and obviously Charlie's going to be home really soon because he's coming back from the hospital, because obviously Harry Clearwater passed away, and she hasn't seen Charlie yet since that's happened. So Charlie does get home, and it's kind of not awkward, but Alice is like, I'm so sorry to kind of be here at this really bad time. It's such bad timing. He's like, no, it's fine. So Alice stays the night. Then the next morning, Bella wakes up and Alice is not there, but she can hear her in the kitchen with Charlie. And Alice asks Charlie, how bad was it? And he's like, it was real bad. Obviously, they're talking about Edward leaving. And he goes on to tell her, you know, when it first happened, she was just absolutely beside herself. She was, you know, screaming in her sleep. She wasn't talking, she wasn't eating, she wasn't drinking. He basically described it as like catatonic. He mentions that he got Renee to come from Florida to try and take her back there to see if it'd be any better. But the minute that they started packing for Bella, she just lost the plot. They were even contemplating like putting her in a hospital. I think all this is quite concerning to Alice too. I don't think she thought it would be that bad. And Charlie just said, you know, like she went back to school and she did start eating and drinking, but she was just like empty. There was just nothing behind her eyes. She would never smile, never laugh. And he does say that, you know, she's gotten better, and he thinks that's down Jacob Black. He says that he thinks that, you know, it started off as a friendship, but I feel like it's getting into something a bit more serious, and that he's a bit younger than her, you know, but he's grown up to be a nice lad. And he does ask if Edward's going to be coming back to visit also. And he seems very relieved when Alice is like, no, he's in South America, the last time I spoke with him. So Bella's hearing all this. She's just woken up and she can hear it all happening. They think she's asleep, basically. So then she makes a noise to make them know that, you know, she is awake and maybe to stop talking about her before she walks in the kitchen. So it turns out Carlisle is working nights in Ithaca and teaching part-time at Cornell. Esme is restoring a 17th century house, a historical monument. Emmett and Rosalie have gone to Europe for a month on another honeymoon. And Jasper is at Cornell as well, studying philosophy. And during this time, Alice has also been trying to track down like the asylum that she was at. And she finds out her real name is Mary Alice Brandon. And that she had a little sister called Cynthia, and her daughter, who is her niece, is still alive. And she's also found her paperwork for the asylum, and it matches the date on her gravestone. It's very interesting, actually, her history, but she can't find out anything else about it. Then the next day, Charlie is on his way to Harry Clearwater's funeral, and then whilst he's out, there's a knock at the door, and Alice is like, I better step out. Bella's like, why? And she's like, I don't think it's good for us, like, for me to be here. So she basically guesses that it's Jacob, and Bella says like, so you can't see werewolves, and Alice replies with, so it would seem. So Alice stepping out whilst Bella answers the door to Jacob. I also completely forgot to mention that Jacob rang, and he was like, oh, like whilst Alice was there, Jacob rings and he's like, just making sure you're still alive. Bella's just thinking like, what is going on? Like, what's our relationship now? Or what's our friendship now? Because he's acting like an absolute asshole. He's acting his age, actually. Okay, so at the door is Jacob, and he's acting really weird again. He's been dropped off, or like in the car outside is like Embry and Jared. So they're obviously keeping an eye on him, thinking like he's gonna turn, or that, I don't know, that he might lose control, because obviously there's a vampire there and everything. And anyway, he's acting really weird. He's like, can I come in? She's like, yeah, of course you can. At this point, Alice has made herself scarce, so she's not actually in the house at this point. She's like, what can I do for you? And he goes, I just have to ask you a couple of questions. It shouldn't take long. We have to get back to the funeral. Obviously, everyone's out at the funeral. It's like he's standing super off and just weird. But also Bella's kind of responding to him in quite like an antagonized way. She does mention that she understands why he's being like that, because obviously in the last chapter she chose the vampires over him, right? Because she was like, I need to get back to the house and see who's, she thinking it's Carlisle. see Carlisle, and then he was like, okay, see you, bye. So she's thinking it's her fault because of that decision that she made. He knows how much like they mean to her. He's being really weird and off with her. She's being like a bit of a bitch back. They're obviously both upset about how their relationship is like the way it's gone, literally in the last 24 hours. So the two questions were, how long is Alice staying for, and are the others coming back, aka is Edward coming back? Anyway, he goes to leave, and he's really quiet, and she thinks like, oh, he's gone, but he hasn't. She starts crying in the kitchen, and then he walks back in. He's like, Bella, and he's like, oh, I did it again, didn't I? Like, I broke my promise about like taking care of you and like not, you know, treating you this way. She's like, it's okay, like it's my fault this time. She says, let's not worry about it, okay? She's just visiting, she'll leave soon. Let's go back to normal. Bella says, can't I be friends with both of you at the same time? He shook his head slowly. No, I don't think you can. I mean, you can. I guess it's just navigating them two. Been sleeping all day, now he's really tired. Also, Jacob sniffs her and he's like, you smell weird. Like, what does he say? She smells icy. She smells like sickly sweet, like something's dead. So Alice isn't here doing this whole altercation. She's upset, and he can see that, and he's like touching her face, and he's like cupping her cheek and stuff. And then he goes in, he like tilts his head like he's going in for like a kiss, and in her mind she's like, fuck, I haven't decided if I actually like want this. Luckily she's saved by the phone, so the phone starts ringing, but Jacob picks it up, and he's like, not really saying much. He's like, yeah, like, no, he's at a funeral. And then Bella's like, who was that? And he was like, it was Carlisle, calling to ask about Charlie. Bella is annoyed about this because she's like, it's my house, my phone, like, why the fuck are you picking up my phone? Obviously she probably wanted to talk to Carlisle. So then Jacob goes to leave, and as he's going towards the front door, Alice is there, and she's just like, Bella? And she sounds like really concerned and really like strange. Bella's like, what's wrong? And Alice is like, Edward. When she's telling her like something's happened with Edward, she just like passes out almost. Sorry, Bella is like passing out, and Jacob's like, what did you do? Even though they're like just all standing there, but for some reason she's just passing out. I guess maybe it's because she's talking about Edward. Jacob's carried her to the couch, and Bella says to Alice, you know, like, what's happened? Like, what's wrong? And Alice is just going, or she's just kind of thinking out loud. She's like, why would he do that? Like, what is he thinking? So then Alice picks up her phone and she calls Rosalie. Why would you do that, Rosalie? Well, you're wrong on both counts though, Rosalie. So that would be a problem, don't you think? Yes, that's right. She's absolutely fine. I was wrong. It's a long story, but you're wrong about that part too. That's why I'm calling. Yes, that's exactly what I saw. Obviously, we know that Alice saw Bella die, or at least jump from the cliff, so she was assuming that she died. She never saw Jacob pull her out. She's obviously told like Carlisle or Rosalie this, but hadn't told Edward. And Alice is like, I need to ring Carlisle, I need to talk to him. And Rosalie says that like he's not there, like he's left his phone, he's gone out, he's left his phone. But then Bella's like, well, he just called here literally like a second ago, like he must be back from wherever he was going. Alice is like, how long ago was that? And Bella's saying like literally like a minute ago. Like, so I was like, well, what did he say? And then Bella said, you know, I didn't pick up the phone, Jacob did. So now all eyes are on Jacob. What did he say? What did you say? He's like, he was asking where Charlie was. And I said he wasn't here. And then I was like, is that exactly what you said? Was there anything else? Bella says, well, you told him you said that Charlie was at a funeral. Alice was like, were they your exact words? So Alice doesn't look good. Like, she looks like sick to her stomach, basically. And Bella's like, what is wrong? Like, tell me, what is wrong? Alice says it wasn't Carlisle on the phone, it was Edward. And that when Edward rang, and then Jacob had said like Charlie was at a funeral, Edward's thinking that Jacob meant Bella's funeral, because obviously Rosalie, little bitch that she is, has told Edward about Alice's premonition. Also, I'm just thinking, like, so say that Bella had passed away, why would Charlie be at the funeral and Jacob not be? Like, why would Jacob be at the house? Just fucking hanging out at the house while everyone else is at like Bella's funeral, Charlie's at Bella's funeral. Why would anyone be home? No one would be home. There's only one reason that Jacob would be at the house, and that would be because Bella's there and they're like talking. But it's like, oh, it's okay. Well, when Carlisle rings, we can like let him know that that's not the case. Like, I'm fine. Or if Edward rings back, like, we'll give him a call, like tell him that like I'm not dead. But she's like, I can't call him because he's he's throwing away his phone, and also he won't be calling back because he's going to go and kill himself. He's going to Italy to see the Volturi. So they might choose like not to kill him because Arrow is fond of Carlisle and wouldn't want to like, offend him. But apparently Edward has a backup plan. They're very protective of their city, so if Edward does anything to upset the peace, he thinks they'll act to stop him, and he's right, they will. So now we're just like panicking, we're packing, they're about to run out the door because they're gonna get a flight to Italy and try and stop this. Alice is not happy that Bella is coming because she thinks that they'll kill Bella because she knows too much, and also if Edward is caught and they catch Alice, she'll be seen as like an accomplice. Bella is writing Charlie a note. She's just like, Edward's in trouble, I have to go, I know it's bad timing, I love you, bye. And actually while she's like doing all this, Jacob's the one passing her like the pen and the paper, but he's saying to her like, don't go, just stay, I don't want you to die, don't go. And Bella's just like, I have to do this, like I have to go. So now Bella and Alice are speeding away in the car to the airport. They're on the flight. Alice is just quickly talking to Jasper on the phone, and she says, I can't be sure, I keep seeing him do different things, keeps changing his mind, a killing spree through the city, attacking the guard, lifting a car over his head in the main square, mostly things that would expose them. He knows that's the fastest way to force a reaction. And then she has to tell like Jasper, like, don't go and get him, tell Emmett and Rosalie to like not go get him because he'll just like act faster basically. So at this point they're on a flight from Washington to New York because they've got to change before they go to Italy. This whole chapter is like pretty much on the plane, which doesn't happen actually in the film at all. We literally just like cut to them like driving in that fast car. Selfishly, Alice also doesn't want Jasper to get involved because she doesn't want him to get hurt and she can't lose him. And Bella completely understands that. So Bella asks Alice like, can't he hear you though? Like surely if like, because obviously Edward can hear people's thoughts. If Alice thinks like she's alive, wouldn't he hear her? And then he would know like she's alive. There's no point like in doing this. And then she says, I still couldn't believe that he was capable of reacting like this. Yeah, just like how he didn't overreact when you got a paper cut at your birthday and like hit you against the wall and then you bled even more because you hit the table and like crashed the floor in all this glass. Yeah, you're right, he doesn't really overreact, so this is kind of really out of character for him. And then she just thinks about how they're watching Romeo and Juliet at that time and how he'd mentioned that he could never lose her, and if he did, he would just find a way to like join her in death, and he'd probably go to the Volturi, which is how she kind of already knows about them. So basically she's asking a bit more about the Volturi, and Alice says, I'm surprised you recognise the name. Like, how much did Edward tell you? He just told me they were an old powerful family like royalty, that you didn't antagonise them unless you wanted to die. And then Alice just goes on to say that we Cullens are unique in more ways than you know. It's abnormal for so many of us to live together in peace. It's the same for Tanya's family in the north, and Carlisle speculates that abstaining makes it easier for us to be civilised, to form bonds on love rather than survival or convenience. Even James's little coven of 3 was unusually large, and you saw how easily Laurent left them. Our kind travel alone or in pairs as a general rule. Carlisle's family is the biggest in existence as far as I know, with the one exception, the Volturi. So there are 3 Volturi. Arrow, is it Caius? And Marcus. 2 females joined them over time, and the 5 of them make up the family. And they're well over 3,000 years old, and they've all got like amazing gifts. And Alice says that maybe it's their gifts that give them extra tolerance of each other, I guess she's meaning, or like their love of power binds them together. So 5 make up the family, but that doesn't include the guard. So there are 9 members of the guard that are permanent, and then there are others that kind of like transition in and out. Many of them are gifted as well, like formidable gifts. Gifts that make what I do look like a pile of tricks. This is Alice. The Volturi choose them for their abilities, physical or otherwise. So Bella's learning that there are rules in this world, and she's like, shouldn't someone have told me this? Like, I wanted to become a vampire. Like, surely someone should have told me, like, if it's like that big a deal. So basically, Alice says there are restrictions. The main one being keeping their existence a secret, which is obvious. Alice does say that they don't leave the city. So Bella asks, like, how do they eat? And Alice says they don't leave, they bring their food in from outside, from quite far away sometimes. So Alice can't say anything else right now. So they land at New York City, they get on they just about make their connecting flight to Italy. So Alice tries to see more about Edward's decision, and also about the decision about the Volturi. So she does at one point say that they're deliberating that they've decided to tell him no. So this means it gives them more time to get there, because he's obviously not made his decision. They've not said yes, and they're going to make the decision like right there and then. They've said no, so now he's thinking about how else to do it. This is quite a nice like conversation on this plane. Her and Alice are really kind of getting to know each other. It's nice. None of this is in the movie. It's a bit of a shame, actually. So Bella's like, how come you can see more clearly what Edward and like the Volturi are thinking or going to do than you can like a human, like with her, like with Bella? How come she didn't really see that? And she just said, you know, she can tune into her own kind more than she can humans. And she says, you know, I really wish you could have been right about me. Like the things you thought about me at the beginning, like when they first met in Twilight, the fact that Alice thought Bella was going to become a vampire just like them. And Alice just said, you know, at the time it was a possibility. And then Alice says, honestly, I think it's all gone beyond ridiculous. I'm debating whether to just change you myself. And obviously Bella gets super excited, but she's like, do it now, do it now. I'm like, no, we're on a fucking plane, like full of people. Plus you'd be like writhing in agony for days, so just calm down. But it has given Bella some hope that if Edward doesn't want to do it, and if nothing happens with him, then they can just go behind his back, and Alice will turn her, and then she can live her life with Edward. So as she says, go back to sleep. I will wake you if I think of it, if like anything else comes to mind, you know? So once Bella wakes up, Alice has got more information for her. She says he's going to keep it simple. He's just going to walk out into the sun. And then obviously all Bella can think of is like how stunning and sparkly and shimmery he was in the meadow that time. Because it was nighttime as they were flying, and it's just turned like daylight. So they know they've got until noon. So they are thinking they've not got a lot of time. Right now he's leaning towards the melodramatic. He wants the biggest audience possible, so he'll choose the main plaza under the clock tower. He'll wait till the sun is exactly overhead. So we have till noon, if we're lucky, if he sticks with this decision. So we're in Italy. They steal a Porsche. Grand Theft Auto. Driving like crazy people, trying to get there on time. So Alice can obviously see more happening like in the town that they're heading to. And she's like, there's some kind of festival that's full of people and there's like red flags everywhere. What's the date today? And Bella says it's the 19th. Alice says, well, that's ironic. It's St. Marcus Day. So apparently St. Marcus Day is a celebration they host every year. As the legend goes, a Christian missionary, a Father Marcus of the Volturi, in fact. But that's where some of the superstitions about things like crosses and garlic come from. Father Marcus used them so successfully, and vampires don't trouble Volterra, so they must work. That's so indulgent, thinking that Marcus of the Volturi is still there, and every year they celebrate him, like the legend of him. I mean, I guess if you're a vampire, what else you got to do, eh? So you might as well. So obviously the Volturi are not going to be happy if Edward messes up St. Marcus's Day. Anyway, I was like, he just needs to see you. He just needs to see you, and you need to like run to him. He needs to see you before he sees me. I guess if Edward sees Alice, he'll think she's come to stop me. But if he sees Bella, he'll realise she's alive. I don't need to kill myself. Alice and Bella are in the car, still winding their way through these rows, trying to get to the clock tower, or get as close as they can, basically. But it is so busy. Then they get kind of in a bit of a traffic jam. The car park's full, but then Alice goes around the guard who's like in front of this gate and like drives through, but then another guard stops her and is like, you know, it's tours only or tour buses only. And Alice is like, it's a private tour, and then like slips him like a shit ton of money. I don't know what's happened there. He seems like he recognizes her. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Anyway, they keep going down cobbled streets, getting closer and closer, and they do finally get to a dead end where, well, not a dead end, but just like there's too many people. So Bella like jumped out of the car, she's running, she's looking for the clock tower, but it's just like packed with people and it's hard for her to get past. And then just as it's like tolling, the bells tolling 12, she sees like a bit of a gap in the throng of people, and it's a huge like square fountain. So she like rushes through the fountain. It's fucking cold apparently, out the other side, and there's like families all around. There's a family of 4 with 2 little girls, and it says the older girl, just waist high to her mother, hugged her mother's leg and stared into the shadows behind them. As I watched, she tugged on her mother's elbow and pointed towards the darkness. Bella's screaming, Edward, no, sorry, he's still eating. Can I just finish this? So Bella's screaming at him. She's like, in her head, there's no like hallucination this time, like it's really him. Edward stood motionless as a statue, just a few feet from the mouth of the alley. His eyes were closed, the rings underneath them deep purple. His arms relaxed at his sides, his palms turned forward. His expression was very peaceful, like he
Like he was daydreaming pleasant things. Sorry, excuse the spitty mouth. So the clock is still tolling. She like runs across to him. She's like, no, Edward, look at me, no. Runs into him, like literally slams so hard into him. And the force knocks them both to the ground. So he's thinking that he's dreaming and that he's already dead and that it was quick and it was over and painless and he's in heaven or hell. The clock is still tolling, so this has happened in like a very short amount of time. So Bella says, it was very strange, for I knew we were both in mortal danger. Still, in that instant, I felt well, whole. I could feel my heart racing in my chest, the blood pulsing hot and fast through my veins again. My lungs filled deep with the sweet scent that came off his skin. It was like there'd never been a hole in my chest. So after everything he's put her through, in an instant, she's like, I forget everything that's happened that he's put me through. They could discuss that later, I guess. I'd have been like, I'll save you now, but we're having talks later. But he finally comes around and realizes that he's not dead. She is actually there. She's alive. As he's realizing this, kind of two shadows detach themselves from the crowd, start walking towards them. And Edward's like, greetings, gentlemen. I don't think I'll be needing your services today anymore. And they are adamant about taking this conversation somewhere more appropriate, somewhere a bit more private. And Edward's just trying to get out of it. He's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Just we'll go on our way. So this is Felix and Dimitri. And he's like, but why don't you go back to the festivities? And they're like, no, the girl has to come too. And he keeps just saying, I don't need your services anymore. Like the girl, it's all fine. Like the girl goes free. They're like, no, that's not possible. Arrow wants to discuss things with you. So Arrow is obviously one of the Volturi. Then all of a sudden Alice appears and she's like, hey guys, like let's all just like calm down. So Edward's trying to protect Bella and he's like standing in front of her. And then another voice kind of joins them. And it's like a really like high reedy voice apparently. And out walks Jane. It seems like Edward's a little bit defeated. He's just like, Jane. Like sighing in recognition and resignation. And she's just like, follow me. And they all just follow her because I'm guessing, as far as I remember, isn't she very powerful? So walking down the alley, they jump down a manhole cover that's been pulled aside. And they're walking like this dark kind of underground subterranean tunnel for ages. It's really cold. So as they're walking, they come to a like gate, go through that gets like shut and locked behind them, and then they come to a big thick wooden door, and we're literally just about to walk through it and see what's on the other side. Okay, it didn't open up into the room without Volturi. So they go down like a long corridor and then go to an elevator and it goes down, and they come out into like a fancy like reception, and it's there that there's like a desk with a human behind it, and then they go into a big oval room that has like people just like standing there chatting. I say people, like other Volturi, some women in sundresses, other vampires, and then Arrow is there, and obviously he's like one of the main ones. It says here, I couldn't decide if his face was beautiful or not. I suppose the features were perfect, but he was as different from the vampires beside me as they were from me. His skin was translucently white, like onion skin, and it looked just as delicate. It stood in shocking contrast to the long black hair that framed his face. His eyes were red, the same as the others around him, but the colour was clouded, milky. I wondered if his vision was affected by the haze. That kind of sounds like, he kind of sounds gross, but I guess he is old, so anyway. So he sends Felix off to go get Caius? Is it Caius? And Marcus. And Arrow's like, oh, this is such a wonderful surprise. I'm so glad you come back and to finally meet Alice and Bella as well. Arrow's like, I love a happy ending. This is so wonderful. It's here that we learn that Arrow has the same kind of gifts that Edward does, but Arrow has to touch you to see them. Obviously, Edward can hear what you're thinking from a distance, but then with Arrow, he can kind of hear every thought you've ever thought if he touches you, basically. So Marcus and Caius, fucking names, man, enter the room, and Arrow's like, look everyone, look guys, it's Bella, she's alive. how amazing. And this is where we start talking about Bella's blood, and Arrow says he just finds it so difficult to understand. How can you stand so close to her? It's not without effort, Edward answered. But still, what a waste. Arrow says, if I hadn't smelled her through your memories, I wouldn't have believed the call of anyone's blood could be so strong. I've never felt anything like it myself. Most of us would trade much for such a gift. And yet you...
and Edward finishes with waste it. So Arrow wants to read Bella's mind or Bella's thoughts, and he knows that Edward can't hear her thoughts, so he's wondering if it's the same for him. So he asks Bella if he can like touch her hand and see if it's the same with him, and she doesn't really want to do it, but obviously she feels like she doesn't really have much of a choice. So we do find out that it doesn't work. He cannot read her thoughts. I also forgot to mention there's another vampire called Alec who is in this room too, which turns out to be Jane's brother, I think, or at least they look the same, so I think they're brother and sister. So Arrow asks Jane to see if her gifts work or not on Bella. When he asks Jane to do this, obviously Edward is not happy, and this is where Jane then does her, I don't know what is it she does. She just makes people feel pain. So she makes him feel pain. He's on the floor like writhing in pain, and Bella's like, no, stop. He's on the floor being comforted by Alice, and she's just like, go ahead. So Jane tries to do the same thing to Bella. Doesn't work. None of these vampires' gifts work on Bella. Arrow is asking Alice and Bella and Edward if they would like to join the Volturi, and Alice is like, no thank you. Obviously Edward's like, no you're right. And so he says, and you, Bella? And at this point Caius is like, what? Arrow, what? And he's like, surely you could see the potential in having Bella as part of the Volturi. So Edward's getting annoyed, and he's like, so what is it, join or die? I expected as much, being like brought to this room. And Harry's like, no, of course not. Like, we were already in this room waiting for Heidi. And then Caius is just like being a little bitch, being like, well, she knows too much, she'll expose our secrets. And then Edward's like, you've literally got a human on fucking reception out there. And Caius is like, yes, well when she's done being useful, they will serve to sustain us. Sarah's like, unless you do intend to give her immortality, why then you would be free to go home and give my regards to my friend Carlisle. But I'm afraid you would have to mean it, Arrow says. And obviously we know how Edward feels about turning Bella. Even though Alice said on the plane ride that she'd just fucking do it, Alice goes towards Arrow and gives her hands to him so he can see her thoughts, see what the future is that she sees, basically. And obviously she's hinted so many times at the fact that she knew that Bella was going to turn one day. So he sees that and he's like, okay, cool, I believe you. You're going to turn her at some point, so you can go. You're free. Please wait till dark to leave, because obviously the sun's shining right now, and also Edward doesn't have a top on. Caius is like, don't delay, because we don't really do second chances. On the walk out of that room, they pass a gaggle of tourists being led by like this woman, and Bella's a little bit confused. She's just like, who are these people? And obviously they are food, which is quite funny, because I mean Alice did say that they bring in their food from like far away, so I guess a tourist is from far away, I guess. So they're rushing out, Alice and Edward and Bella, but obviously not far enough to not hear the screaming when it starts. So we're finished with the Volturi. I actually forgot to mention that as they were walking out, the people that were walking in, there was a lady at the end who was like, didn't speak English, and she was clutching her rosary beads. Anyway, they're now waiting in like the reception for it to get dark so they can leave, and Bella is literally like in hysterics. So she's really upset about like the group that's just gone in there, because obviously they're feeding on them, and like she keeps thinking about the lady with the rosary beads, and Edward's like, I wish you didn't have to see that. Anyway, it gets dark and Alec comes out, and his eyes are obviously really crimson red. He's like, you can go now, it's fine. Off they go, Edward, Alice and Bella. They steal another car, they drive to the airport. During this time, Bella has questions for Edward, but she doesn't ask them because she's worried about, I guess, it putting him off or something, or she just wants to like basically enjoy the time she has with him. In her mind, he is still leaving. This is just like a temporary gathering of the two of them. Bella's also exhausted. She is so tired, and I guess like when you've been put through the kind of 48 hours that she's had, I'm not fucking surprised. But again, she refuses to sleep because she doesn't want to miss a single moment with Edward. He's like super protective of her right now, and also very like kind of hands-on with her. He's kissing her like forehead and her head, her nose, and he's like stroking her hair. He's being very comforting, and she's really enjoying it, but she's also thinking that that's gonna hurt when it comes time for him to leave. So they get the plane from Volterra to Italy, and then Italy to back to America. Also, Bella doesn't want to sleep because she says to Edward that I'll see things I don't want to see and I'll have nightmares. He just leaves it alone, doesn't ask her to sleep again after that. So when they get to America, where are we again? Washington Forks. They are greeted by the whole family. Esme's super thankful and like hugging Bella, and she's like, thank you so much for like saving my boy. And she's livid at Edward for making that decision. And as they walk out of the airport towards the cars, there is Rosalie and Emmett. It is not good between Edward and Rosalie, but Esme really wants them to make amends. So Edward and Bella get into the car with Rosalie and Emmett, and it's here that she is pleading for them to forgive her. So actually she doesn't just address Edward this time. This is the first time Rosalie has addressed Bella in all this time. Bitch. Anyway, Bella's like, yeah, sure, okay. Anyway, they get back. Charlie's fucking furious. He's like, get the fuck out my house to Edward. Get your hands off her. Give her to me, because he's holding her up because she's so tired she can barely walk. And Charlie keeps saying, what have you done to her? What have you done? He's like, she's just tired. Like, let me take her upstairs. Let me make sure she gets into bed and then I'll leave. And in Bella's mind, she's like, oh my God, he's going. I'm not asking any questions. Like, he can't go right now. But he does say to her, I won't be far. Okay, so she's just woken up from her nap. I say nap. She's been awake. Apparently she's been asleep for like 14 hours. She thinks she's dreaming. She can feel like she's being held and his cold hands, and she thinks she's dreaming. She doesn't want to wake up. Anyway, she wakes up. He's there. It isn't a dream. It's all real. And she's like, did all that really happen? He's like, that depends. If you mean like being nearly massacred in Italy, yes. There's loads of backwards and forwards of her like not believing that this is real, this isn't happening, and that he's leaving. Like, she's in a nightmare. He's like, what do you mean I'm a nightmare? He's like, are you an apology? Yeah, you're right, you do. You have to know that I had no idea. I didn't realize the mess I was leaving behind. I thought it was safe for you here, so safe. I had no idea that Victoria would come back. I mean, there's a lot he needs to be sorry for. Like, this is obviously like one thing, but there's a lot that he needs to apologize for. So he's going on and on about Victoria and like that he should have been there, he should have like seen, that's how she, like that's the kind of bond she had with James before he did anything. So Bella goes, this has to stop now. You can't think about things that way. You can't let this guilt rule your life. You can't take responsibility for the things that happened to me here. None of it is your fault. It's just part of how life is for me. You can't go off running to Italy because you feel bad that you didn't save me. Even if I jumped off a cliff to die, that would have been my choice and not your fault. The fact that she feels this way, I don't know, like the fact that she's blaming herself for all of this doesn't really sit well with me, if I'm honest. So then Ed was like, feel guilty? I don't feel guilty. And then he's explaining that he went to the Volturi because he thought she was dead and he can't live in a world where she doesn't exist. And at this point he tells her that he's a good liar, and that when they're in the woods at the beginning and he told her that like he's got other, I don't know, what did he say? I can't remember. Basically, he was saying that he didn't love her, basically saying that he didn't want her anymore. And he was lying. And obviously she believed it. And he's a little bit taken aback that she actually believed it so quickly. He says, I'm a good liar, but still, for you to believe me so quickly, that was excruciating. I don't know why he's playing the victim here. I don't know. This whole exchange, I do not like this whole exchange, if I'm honest. But he does enlighten Bella and us to the fact that he actually was going to come back because he couldn't take it. He couldn't be away from her. He actually says about when he first left, he was tracing Victoria and he had a false lead to Brazil, but actually she'd come right back round to Forks. Basically, he's not good at tracking, but he does admit that. And Bella reminds him, it's not just Victoria that's going to come looking for her. It's also going to be the Volturi. So they obviously have to have a discussion about next steps for her being turned. He's like, well, we have plenty of time to think about it. Like, we've got plenty of time to think it through. She's not having it. She's just like, we kind of need to do this sooner rather than later because they could come at any time. And then there's a conversation about like him waiting until she's 30, and she's like, 30? Sorry. He wants her to just like hopefully change her mind and grow old, and he'll also pass away when she passes away. So Bella's having none of it. She's like, okay, I'm packing my bags because we're going to your house because you know what? We're going to go see your family. Bella says, this isn't just about you anymore. You're not the center of the universe, If you're going to bring the Volturi down on us over something as stupid as leaving me human, then your family ought to have a say. A say in what? He says. My mortality. I'm putting it to a vote. They're running through the woods. They're going to his house. She's on his back. She remembers how exhilarating it is. She's loving it. She's keeping her eyes open this time. They're just talking again about him, like,
not wanting to leave her. They can't be without each other. She asks where her stuff is. Like, she wants her stuff back now that, like, they're gonna just continue as a couple. And he says they're under your floorboards. So they've literally been in her room the whole time. And she also does tell him that in her subconscious, she was hearing voices. And he's like, voices? She's like, whoa, yeah, just one, yours. She tells him about the motorcycles, the cliff diving, anything dangerous, and that she would hear his voice. And Ed was comparing how he was totally useless whilst they were apart, whereas at least Bella was making the effort to like get up and do a bit of a routine, like make an effort, trying to be normal. And he was just a mess apparently as well. Okay, they get to the house. Ed was like, Esme, Carlisle, Jasper, Alice, Emmett, Rosalie, we need to talk. Carl's like, let's go to the other room, let's chat. Bella's like, we're gonna put to a vote, and if you don't want me, I'll go to Italy on my own. I can't have the Volturi coming here. And Ed was like, there's a reason I didn't shake Arrow's hand at the end. I didn't want to clue them in. Basically, the whole time that he was in Italy, he was like reading everyone's minds. And then apparently Dimitri is their tracker. And apparently Dimitri has very similar tracking methods to James and kind of gets like the flavor. James is from the first book, Twilight. But now he's thinking, after Arrow's little experiments that they did in that room, no one's talents worked on Bella. So he's thinking they won't be able to find Bella, even if they decide to come to Forks. But then Bella's like, but they can still find you. And Edward's like, but I can take care of myself. Anyway, here's the vote. Alice is yes. Jasper is yes. Rosalie is a no. She says, I don't mean that I have any aversion to you as a sister. It's just that this is not the life I would have chosen for myself. I wish there had been someone there to vote no for me. Emmett is a hell yes. Yes, of course, Bella is Esme. And Carla's like, I guess you know my vote. Yes. And so Alice is like giving her a hug, and Bella's like, okay, now? And Alice is like, hang on, I didn't like, not right now. And Edward gets angry at this because he's just like, absolutely not. He's like growling, getting all like, ugh. So she turns to Carlisle and she's like, Carlisle? So debating when to do it. And Edward is like, look, Charlie's gonna be awake soon. Let me get you back to the house. We don't want the police coming after us. I guess they need to have a conversation about when they would do it. She's asking after graduation, and Edward says, you have my word. Bella does want Edward to be the one to change her, to be honest. Edward's still trying to barter with her. He's like, 3 years? Bella says 6 months. He says, not good enough. Bella says, that's my limit. Edward says, give me at least 2. Bella says, no way, 19 I'll do. I'm not going anywhere near 20. If you're staying in your teens forever, then so am I. So Edward is thinking about this, and he's like, okay, on one condition. The condition is, marry me first. Bella thinks he's joking around. Well, I'm nearly 110. It's time I settle down. Anyway, there's tons back and forth. They're back at the house. Charlie's just getting up, and they're having a conversation, Bella and Charlie. And he says, would you like to explain where you've been? Oh, it's so long-winded. Basically, she tells him that she was going cliff diving. She told Alice and Rosalie, and then they told Edward, and he thought she was trying to kill herself. It was all a big misunderstanding. He wouldn't answer his phone, so Alice dragged her to LA in person, which obviously is not the truth. And Charlie does ask her, were you trying to kill yourself, Bella? She's like, no, of course not, of course not. So she tells Charlie they're back together, and he's not happy about that. He says that he's rotten for you and that he won't let him mess her up like that again. Anyway, it's all very sweet. They want to be with each other forever. They think about the future, and they're very hopeful, and they have a lovely kiss at the end. Okay, we've come to the end. Please. As if you could outrun me. As if you could outrun me. Best purchase. Listen, I've started running, and I just thought, you know, I need a hat sometimes, because when it's sunny, as if it's sunny that often in the UK, like I need something that's like kind of funny but also like bookish. As if you could outrun me. So that is basically the end of New Moon. We have the epilogue, so let me just quickly summarize this. So everything's basically back to normal in a way. Her and Edward are obviously back together again. She's missed a shit ton of school. They're looking at colleges. Apparently her and Edward might both end up at Peninsula Community College next year. Charlie is obviously not happy with her, isn't really speaking to her. Well, he is really speaking to her, but she's basically grounded, right? Her relationship with Jacob is basically non-existent. He won't take her phone calls. He's completely ignoring her. She feels super guilty, but also very upset about that. And she does try and call him, but she tries to call him like when Edward's not around because she doesn't want to antagonize him. To me, it's a little bit like controlling on his end, or that she shouldn't have to feel that way. Like, he should know everything that Jacob has done for her in the time that he decided to fucking abandon her. What was she meant to do? Not have friends? Anyway, they're driving home from like school, and as they pull up, there is a red, shiny bike right outside the house. And she's like, oh my fucking God, Jacob has shown my dad, told him about the fucking bike. Shiny, bright red, impossible to miss. My motorcycle, flaunting itself in the driveway. So basically, Charlie wants to kill her. So Jacob has told him that it's hers. So before she goes inside to get scolded by Charlie, Jacob is waiting in the woods because he wants to talk to Edward and Bella. Edward says, don't worry, he's not here to fight me. He's acting as spokesperson for the pack. Anyway, it turns out that Jacob just wanted to get her grounded so that she wouldn't have to spend, so that she wasn't able to spend time with Edward. And she's like, I was already grounded, what the hell? So now she's doubly grounded. And actually, Jacob does feel a little bit guilty about that. One of the things Jacob does say is that he's making sure that your blood-sucking friends remember a few key points of the treaty that they agreed to. So the treaty is quite specific. If any of them bite a human, the truce is over. Bite, not kill. And then Bella's like, that's none of your business. And I don't think, it sounds like Jacob had no idea that she actually had made up her mind to like become a vampire, so he's quite taken aback and a bit upset by all this. In the meantime, Charlie is screaming for Bella. He's like, get in this house right now, get back here this instant. He's not happy. And it looks like Bella and Jacob can't be friends. Like, he's finding it really hard to be around her. She obviously is not able to be around him because of like her choices as well, and it's upsetting the both of them quite a lot. Edward does say to Jacob, like, I just want to thank you for taking care of Bella when I couldn't. I mean, he could have done if he just not acted like a child, but okay. Anyway, thank you for looking after her. If you need anything, but if there's anything that I can do for you, like, please ask, kind of thing. And I don't know, that's not going down well anyway. In summary, I would not read this one again. Twilight was fine. It was like a cute little teenage vampire romance. This pissed me off, but it's probably because I'm older. And I wouldn't take that kind of shit from a man, if I'm honest. I'm sorry, no, because you're not a 17-year-old boy, are you? You've been around for like over 100 years. Have you not learned nothing? Maybe not. Does it take 100 years for a man to learn how to treat a woman? Who knows? I can't say that I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed kind of the character development of Jacob, and the relationship between Jacob and Bella was really sweet. It obviously wasn't going to be anything more romantic because she was so hung up on him, and how they've just kind of flitted back to being like, there's no animosity. It's just gone back to completely how it was before. But all of this that has happened just because she literally, she had a paper cut. This whole thing happened because she had a fucking paper cut, and no one could control themselves from a paper cut. What does she do every month when she's on her fucking period? She is always falling over and like prone to like accidents. She must scrape her knee. You're telling me that all those times they were absolutely fine? A paper cut is what set it all off. And then even thinking back, there was the paper cut, and then obviously Jasper was coming for her, so he like threw her against the wall and she hit the desk or whatever it was, the table, hurt herself even more. I'm sorry. No. How did he not just step in front of her? Anyway, I'm gonna end this video here. It has taken me months, literal months, to read this book, and I'm so glad it's over. I'm so glad it's over. I will not be reading the rest of them. I may watch the other films because my partner hasn't watched them, and I feel like he needs to see like the lolsy video, the lolsy films. But no, I would not recommend. I'm sorry for all the twihards out there. I would not recommend reading this as an adult. There we go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this reread. If there's anything you would like me to reread and summarize for you in a video, please let me know. And I will see you all next time. Bye.